Okay. Hi, everyone. This is Cassidy, Hannah, and Jackie from Kindness Across Abilities, the nonprofit organization working tirelessly to support the autistic community, their loved ones, develop inclusion, and decrease stigma. We're at it again, and today we have just a fun but thought-evoking, kind of questioning interview amongst us. Yes. So this will be about ABA. Our background is definitely within ABA. We definitely want to start by saying that we love ABA and we just feel like it's our part to elaborate on why it's amazing for those individuals who have not yet given it a try. But we also want to shine a little bit more light on where we think evolvement and improvement could be because we're humans and we constantly evolve. So let's get started, ladies.
Let's do it.
Right. So the first question is, let's talk about what does quality ABA look like to you?
Go ahead, Hannah. We're both like ready to
no.
jump on this.
Yeah, no, I think quality ABA has like a lot of things like encompassing it, but I think some of the biggest factors is I think the biggest one is obviously like knowing the targets that you're going to be working on, being knowledgeable about the skills. Like when you walk into that session with your child, you at least have an idea of like, okay, there's a few goals in my head that I know I really need to work on with this child, and like having knowledge of their program and understanding of their program. But you also have to have that compassion, care. A lot of them are kids and a lot of them are young kids. So making sure that we're not just I don't know, not just treating autism, we're also treating like a human being, an individual with feelings, including that factor. I think those two things are really the most important, I think. You know, having some sort of knowledge and then also remembering everybody is a human and treat them as such.
Absolutely.
Definitely. I feel like that seems like the most simple idea ever. And I feel like it's what is not thought about when we look at it in a science perspective. It's research, it's data, but it's a person. It's a human. I was trying to find my little pie chart that I made.
Oh, I have it.
Oh, okay.
Perfect. Oh, yes, this is literally perfect for Jackie. Are you kidding me?
I know, because I sat and I thought about this question and I was thinking, like, could I make a model that I could look at when thinking about programming and consider all of the aspects of a person and all the things that would influence a better quality of life and would address certain deficits that are particular to autism and things like that. And this is what I came up with. Maybe we could get it in a picture in the link below. I don't know how to do those kinds of things. I don't computer, but
I think we can get that for you, Miss Jackie.
yeah, I think Hannah would. And I just basically broke it up into like a community and a personal life. And I cut it in half. And then within the community, I broke it up into two different sections. And within the person, I broke it up into two different sections. And we won't go into detail. Maybe that will be another whole video because that's a whole video. But take a look at it. And I think it's pretty self-explanatory when you read the pieces, like where I was coming from. And I'm really interested if anyone has any personal view on my pie chart I created. I'd love to hear some feedback.
Yeah, go ahead and try to find where she missed. That's always a fun game too.
Right.
I want to say we're taking like a big step. And just for those people who have no familiarity with ABA but have stumbled upon this video, if we can break it down a little bit, ABA stands for Applied Behavior Analysis. And basically, that is the science of behavior and how we can manipulate behavior to give us the results that we're wanting. And so when you look at, the pie chart in itself, you'd want to improve these various aspects by manipulating something. Yeah. Do you guys have anything to add to that basic ABA definition?
The applied, I think, is probably the most important part because it isn't, it doesn't make sense really. Like if I'm telling someone behavior, they're going to be like, oh, like they have a basic idea of what behavior is, but I feel like applied isn't in a basic vocabulary, which sounds maybe rude. But I just mean maybe not in the same way. Applied just means that it's socially significant. There's a reason that that behavior is happening, or there's a reason that we want that behavior to change. It's not just to do it to do it. There's a fundamental reason for a better quality of life. So it needs to be socially significant.
Could you also elaborate on that word applied and sort of elongate it to application? And when you're looking at the way that you apply something, you are taking into account the things that Hannah mentioned about compassion and how you want to yes, you want to, create like an environment for someone to, be successful and everything, but like every meticulous step has a reaction. So like that application is super, super important too.
Yeah.
Definitely. Okay, very cool. Okay, so what is your guys' favorite part about ABA?
Ooh. Jackie, it's your turn to go first. Your turn, jumping in.
Honestly, I think my favorite part is just being with the kids and learning from them. Ever since I was young, I really like learning. I enjoy it. I enjoy being wrong in a sense, or like seeing something from a different aspect that I didn't before. I like opening my eyes up and being like, oh, I never thought of it like that. I love those new avenues.
I think I totally agree with you on that, like 110%. I think that's something too that I've always loved working with kids, and I've always sort of done different jobs like in that route, working with kids. But something I personally like really love about ABA is that, like Jackie said, like I'm always on my toes. My kids are showing me how something that worked so great last time is an absolute failure this time, and somehow something changed, and now it's time for Miss Hannah to get creative and find a new approach. And I'm a person that also enjoys to be challenged. I enjoy being challenged. I think it keeps me in the game and it keeps me focused. And yeah, and then of course they're amazing and all the love. So I agree with you.
Absolutely. Yes. The kids are the very best part. Yeah, their souls are just huge. They can just take up a full room. But the creativity too. I remember when I was new to ABA and learning like truly how limitless you can take this. Like, okay, you're trying to teach a skill of, I don't know, like identifying letters, right? Okay, you can use the letter cards, or you can use the magnets, or you can make letters out of Play-Doh, or you can go around and like find letters around the facility, or you can, it is literally limitless, and it never gets boring to me. There's just always, and it's fun too, because bringing it back to the kids, you can look at it this way and you're trying to present them something, but then they perceive it a completely different way and just take you down a rabbit hole. And you're like, I thought we were doing the alphabet, but these are like big lessons we're doing. It's magnificent stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
For sure. Okay, so all of the good and dandy things, but what are some aspects that you guys think ABA could improve on as a science?
You first, Cassidy.
Oh, okay. I think that it is such a useful tool, but I think in a lot of ways, ABA can maybe be a little bit narrow. And that is great for, you're targeting one aspect and you're facilitating that flawlessly. But remember, we're dealing with humans. So I think bringing back the pie chart, like a more holistic
Approach.
we're thinking of a variety of needs. We're thinking of past experiences. We're thinking of like exposures and just everything. And I know that's really hard to do. It's much easier to just conceptualize, but I think we can get there if we keep working towards that goal. What do you guys think?
I 110% agree. And I think something that would like help with that as well, and something that I think ABA could improve on, is I think taking quality of life, like now we're getting, ABA is getting older, and as a science, it's still pretty new, but it's getting some age on it now. And we do have children who are not children anymore. They're adults who have gone through ABA services. And I feel like not just focusing on like, I guess, parent report and how it got easier for just parents or school teachers, but also like, how did that individual feel about the services they received, and or what did they like, I guess taking what they felt, the good and the bad, into consideration when we're looking at ABA going forward.
Wonderful. Yep.
Definitely. I know in some areas too, it's not just autism.
Yeah.
There's like anyone can receive ABA services. So it'd be nice if that was nationwide. It doesn't just have to be for someone who has autism. And I do think ABA, like Hannah said, it is growing and it is becoming older. And in that, it's becoming a little wiser, which is nice to see that we're not going backwards.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cultural inclusion and diversity and celebration in that matter coming about more, which I think is really important. And there's starting to be a shift towards that holistic approach, that more of that positive psychology and other influences. And that's why, again, that's the whole reason I sat down and I thought about like a holistic approach, because that's what matters.
Yeah.
At least, yeah.
That's
Yeah.
really, yeah, get the longevity and get the results to last. Were you going to speak as well, Hannah?
Oh, no, I'm good.
Okay. So I was just going to sort of start on to the next question, but by starting to say like ABA as a whole, sometimes it gets that reputation of compliance is essential. And we're definitely moving away from that, but unfortunately that is the reality of things. And it's just, it is what it is. So with that being said, when do you guys feel like it is appropriate to utilize full physical prompting, things like safety care, or even other aspects like ignoring and other different approaches we can, but let's start with the first two. When do you guys use that in your best judgment?
Okay. I'll go first. I'll do the bad guy on this one. I don't like physical restraints at all. Period. End of story. I don't think that we have the right to touch another individual without their consent, period. I think that that's even something I teach the kids is, my body, my choices, hands off, don't touch me, my body, my choices. I choose, don't touch me. All of those things are options. And if I'm trying to teach that boundary, how can I model, but I can put you where I need you to be, or I can change the rules, basically. I'm above you. And I really don't like the way that sits. I don't like that way that sits as a person or as a parent, as someone, especially who maybe doesn't have the voice to speak up. maybe doesn't know how to express how that made them feel. I mean, all behavior is communication, and maybe they will express how that made them feel, which I hope so. And when they're like, "Oh, sorry, they bit you. Oh, I'm not." And Hannah made a great point about this the other day that I love. Oh, and it was the hand over hand or something. And it's like next
Just
time
grab your friend's hand and make him stir the pot when he doesn't listen.
Just like physically prompt an adult and tell me that that's going to be okay. Like the whole day, just go around.
If your husband's like, "Oh no, I don't feel like cooking," you're like, "Yes, you do," and you're like,
"Here you go."
First you cook me dinner, and then you can go take a shower.
Yeah. Then you can watch your football, your sports.
There you go.
Yeah. And if you don't do it, I'm going to physically help you do it.
Yeah.
Like, it's just,
yeah.
It's funny because when you put it in terms like that, it seems so silly.
Yeah. And it is funny how we look at that situation differently when it's children, or I feel like especially, I've seen this happen a lot. And this is, I do understand, like I have been in situations where like physical safety, certain things, were necessary because somebody was going to be hurt severely. And I think that's when you're more in like that safety care procedural mode. And that's not so much like the full physical prompting because the kid doesn't want to do something, or at least I hope that's not ethical. And I hope that's not happening. But like I have seen where people get and then the kids become very dependent on that physical prompting. And then that kid is no longer a kid and that kid is an adult, and physical prompting doesn't mean anything. And you've never like grown past that point. And you've kind of let it get to a point in time where your only option is maybe physical prompting, and that's not possible anymore. If that makes sense. I think sometimes like people will physically prompt something in the moment because it's easier and it saves time. But long term, that doesn't actually correct the behavior, from some things that I've seen in the past with my experience.
Absolutely. Because with ABA, I think that most of us who seek out to do that, we want to give an individual that sense of independence, that ability communicate, and we need to stay focused on those aspects, because in the long run you need to be mindful, like you don't want to overstep and make a dependency. I mean, essential for independency. Absolutely. The ignoring aspect, I know that comes with circumstances, right? I can even at times try to utilize this technique with my kids, right? Like, when they hear them fighting, I want to go and mediate and fix it, but they're sisters and they're going to fight. And I do ignore it sometimes. Or if they're like asking me the same question 50 times, we already had that conversation, and I'll tell them, I'm going to ignore you now. So do you think there is a time to utilize it? And what's like an example?
I mean, I think you gave a pretty good example, Miss, if I'm being honest, because it is very circumstantial. I do feel like if I'm at a point where I feel like me verbally engaging with the child about the repetitive thing is not helping, I feel like I do try to do a similar thing where I at least let them know, like, I've heard you, so that they don't feel like somebody is just point blank, like, not listening or acknowledging them, because I feel like that's important. But it's very circumstantial. But I feel like you gave a great example of how it can be used, where you're just like, okay, like, I've heard you now and I get you, but we're not going to talk about this anymore. Do you this or that instead?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, no, I think that's perfect. And I think that's the biggest point, is letting them know that they've been heard and this is a choice you're making, and I'm not ignoring you, and you do matter, but I have my boundaries too. But my favorite example of this is Meyerly, my baby, doing it to me. She put me on extinction. So she does the typical, 3-year-old thing that's like, mommy, 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 right? So she was going through this, and I was like, well, let's do a piece of your own medicine, because that's totally what every parenting book is like. You should do whatever they do, and that's what solves the problem, right? So this is
Right.
great parenting from the start. So I'm like, Meyerly, 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 Meyerly. And she starts to respond. What? And after like the third or fourth time, she ignores me. And she keeps ignoring me. And I kept going for like maybe a few more times. But you know what I did? I stopped because it wasn't working. And I was like, as soon as I stopped and I thought about it for a second, I was like, oh my God, she just did that to me. Like,
reverse psychology over here.
I know. I'm like, my daughter just ABA'd me
Yeah.
properly.
Okay. Yes, I love it. I love it. And this is like a little PSA too, because I know a lot of kids, you're going through the checkout aisle and you're like, Mommy, please, can I have this candy? And then they're like, no. And then the kid starts crying and the mom's just checking out. Don't look at that kid. Don't look at that. Don't say, I'm so sorry. Oh, are you okay? No. That mother has ignored that child for a reason.
Yes. Leave that mama alone.
Yeah, that's what's been a little hard adjusting to having the grandparents in the house with us, is they undo my ABA and I'll let it go for now. But yeah, Nora doesn't get her way. She's crying in the corner. I'm like, sorry, babe, love you. It's okay. Go about my day. And there's grandma. Oh, baby, do you want to do it? Okay, you go do it. It's fine.
No, it's not.
So
that's another part of ABA though. That's the control group, knowing that like whatever you want, you get. Like there's no contingency on your reinforcement, and problem behavior is like 0. How about that? I call it the grandma contingency or grandpa contingency.
He was an angel.
I know. I can't imagine why. It's not the pound of sugar that you gave them.
No, not at all.
Oh goodness, that's funny face. Let's see. Okay, so how do you guys feel about emotional regulation? Do you feel like that is a skill that should be included in ABA goals? Should that be more prevalent? What do you think? Is there a relation?
I think there definitely is. I mean, again, I think it comes back to we're also working with humans. And I feel like when you're working with children who are developing, you also have to consider, like, I mean, emotional regulation is a part of just development in general as a person. And so I also think that obviously like emotional regulation can look different for every child, and like some children it's going to look different for every child, but I do think that sometimes it does help with those like big explosive behaviors when you can implement some of those tools at like an appropriate level for them. I think that it is important. I think it's an important skill to really just have in life in general. So I feel like why would it not also apply to our kids in ABA?
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, I would agree. I think the where ABA struggles with that is like insurance and is it evidence-based practice and things like that. But again, that's why I went to that holistic approach, because when you're looking at as a whole person, if I'm not thinking about anyone else and I'm just thinking about myself, because I can speak for myself, if I'm getting worked up, it would be nice to be able to recognize how I'm feeling, recognize how I could calm down before I get to that point. But then also like there's the aftermath. Sometimes, I don't know about you guys, but I don't I don't stop myself from that explosion, right? It does happen.
Yeah.
And then it takes time to recover. And I think that's also a part of that emotional regulation. It's the front part, and it's finding a strategy that works for you, even if it's co-regulating with someone else, getting a hug, knowing what you need so you can ask for it. And I think that's where ABA can like kind of go on that fine line of like, we're going to work on functional communication training. We're going to learn how to ask for what we need. And you tell me what makes you most comfortable in this moment. And having that balance between the two.
Absolutely. Helping them identify their potential triggers. You know, if you are present with any individual in the room, you can sort of feel like things becoming more tense. And as somebody anyone who's working with a child, that might be the time where you become more relaxed. And I'll speak, and maybe this is too grand of a concept to bring into this conversation, but it's important to look at yourself. Any work that you do with another human being, don't bring your own personal baggage. Through life, we go through life being like, you have to be a certain way, you have to be well behaved, like the children around you are a reflection of yourself. I mean, all of these things are going through your mind. Maybe you're working with a child and you're thinking, if this child gets upset, then that's going to look bad on me. So I need to make sure that they do what they're supposed to do and not be upset. And get out of your head and get into the moment and just feel the energy, because that's one thing I feel like autistic individuals do very well, is just show maybe more than tell. So if you're able to observe like, okay, there's been a change of energy, let me modify my behavior and worry less about modifying theirs, then we can come to that resolution and conclusion harmoniously. Because yeah, like I know you guys would agree, I was much older before I realized I'm getting upset, I'm gonna go upstairs. Actually, my children helped teach me that. Mom, you need to go take a break. Like you know, it's nice.
Yeah, it's not easy. And honestly, sometimes it feels good just to explode. There's this one like little meme of a guy and he's like on the pole, like, I'm fine after my mental breakdown or whatever. And honestly, it does feel like that, like, I'm sorry, I you know, kind of lost it for a second. I'm fine now. Like,
Right.
It's like, you think of a baby monkey, you think of like animals, like, you know, they're you know, a puppy is getting licked by its mom or a monkey's on the back. Like we need that physical touch sometimes just to feel grounded. Maybe not all kids. I want you to touch them.
Right. Depends on the
yeah, if they flinch and tell you no, that's probably a sign they don't like it.
A little overstimulated. Very, very cool. Okay, so with that being said, is there any area where you would love to see ABA do more research in, maybe like collaborate more with and implement in the practice?
I think ABA should be a multi-element field. I think that there should be, I know it's me crazy and always stirring the pot and always changing things. I think there should be some kind of education on sensory processing disorder and anxiety disorder, mental health. Like psychology used to kind of be the beginning of ABA, right? And then it branched off a little bit. But I think it needs to go back. I think there needs to be like a trauma-informed care. It needs to be very complex built because the person is very complex and it comes with a lot of different disorders or comorbidities. And I think if everyone needs at least a decent amount of that education, and I think it needs to, I don't know, come together collaboratively, be a field.
Yeah, I would agree too. And I really wish that like I knew more about, maybe I'll do some research in the future. We can do a YouTube video about that. But I do know, like Jackie said, in other areas, in other states, like ABA is not just for autism. And I know there's even been research done on ABA used for trauma for young children and children who have behaviors because of traumatic experiences and things like that. And I would really, just out of my own personal curiosity from like some psychology background and stuff, I would be really curious to see how like if there's been a lot of research done or anything on like DBT and autism, like that same kind of sensory factor. And I don't know how much like ABA would play a role in that, but just like recognizing maybe some of those tools, because DBT is like a therapeutic, basically a way of using your sensory system to calm down or like regulate yourself using the five senses. And I've always just been sort of like curious in my own head about like, I wonder if like those two things could like maybe share a little something with each other. You know, like our kiddos are such sensory based kiddos. I wonder if those tools would also be helpful to them.
Yeah, that would be amazing. The very like capacity, like such high or low capacity that they have for that sensory input in order to give them the tools of like, you know, utilizing that and manipulating that to benefit themselves. This is totally hippy dippy, but if I could have my own ABA company, I don't even know if you could call it ABA, because I would just want to focus on like communication and advocacy. Like tell me why you don't like it, and we'll just all collaborate together and just that be the forefront. Because I feel that way with my kids in school too. Like, great, you got an A, I'm very proud of you, it's really cool. But I really love the pictures that they bring home, because it's like, I'm glad that you can like absorb and retain knowledge, but I really just want to know what your soul wants to tell me, that's super hippie. But
Yeah.
On that advocacy note, I've been thinking about that lately, and I don't know how we're going to do this. I like how I volunteered you guys.
Yeah, that's
I think we should try and change the ethics code and increase advocacy, especially for other children who are not being served. I know that there's a lot of ethical boundaries of like when you can suggest maybe someone needs to have additional help. I'm just curious. One, ethics is subjective because everyone has their own idea of what morals are.
Right.
But I just I think it's almost more unethical to see someone struggle longer than they need to, because we can't say something. And if they can't say anything, they can't speak up for themselves. It's hard. Cassidy, how do we fix this? How do we reach individuals or families who don't see the need of getting additional support?
That's hard, because how do you get somebody to leave their pride outside?
Yeah.
I feel like that's the only reason that, one, if you don't feel like your child aligns with any, suggestion you're getting, you're like, oh, thank you for the advice, no thanks. And you have the right to say that at any level. But if somebody was offering you a potential like lifeline, if you are struggling with like coming to terms with various things, I think I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Hannah, do you agree? Like, that ethical code, is that just to protect the parents from being upset? Is there a greater reason that I'm not seeing?
Well, I mean, I think it's so difficult. I mean, I do think it is more about not even protecting the parents. I think it's more about protecting whatever the person who's saying it.
Okay.
Because like, especially like, I don't know, say for example, like I can think just from my own background, like working in childcare, and it does suck because it's like you do like a parent will sometimes walk up to you and just be like, can you tell me what you think is going on? Mm-hmm. And even if we have an inkling, like, yeah, this looks, we think that there could be, we can't even say the word autism. Like we can say like, go to your pediatrician. and talk and ask questions, and we can bring up like developmental checkpoints that they haven't hit, which that seems even, I don't know, to me that seems sadder when the parents really want the help, and a lot of times you're like kind of bound by this liability as a company that, like, I guess the fear is that if we say something that upsets them and then the parent pulls the kid, that's like potential like losing business. I don't really understand that either, if I'm being honest. Like, I'm trying to think.
Or is it like, oh, you said my child had autism, so I put them in these services, and then it turns out that they, or like I took them to a psychologist, yeah, and they don't have it. Yeah.
But it's hard too, because even if the right person suggests maybe they should see a pediatrician, right? Then they go and see the pediatrician. A lot of times, I don't know how many stories I hear of parents being like, we went to the pediatrician 3 times and they would not give me a referral. I couldn't get a diagnosis. And they're like, the child is going and not receiving services, and it's years and months and added on to this extension of when they could have got help. And
I will say, I do know in the past, for anybody who may currently be in that situation, I know that as a childcare worker, I have written, like, I guess what we kind of do now, like almost like writing notes, and we would collect data. Like, it's funny looking back on that now because that's not what I would have thought of it as. But we had a couple parents, because pediatricians would not take things seriously, because like one kid in particular is like very verbal, very social, but there were a lot of behavioral and like other things going on that parents had concerns about. And so we, like, because mom's like, the pediatrician just keeps shoving me out the door about it, we like kept a log for a couple weeks for her so that she could take that directly to her child, her pediatrician, and be like, look, this is what they're seeing. This is not just me seeing it. This is also my childcare facility seeing it.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe it might be worth asking. I know that it's helped other parents in the past when I worked in childcare.
Okay, so if you are a childcare worker and a parent comes to you saying, I think what do you think is going on with these behaviors and stuff? You could recommend and say, I can keep a log of what I'm seeing if you want to bring this to your pediatrician.
Yeah, we wouldn't just say like go to your pediatrician, but like if parents ever asked us, like, I mean, I remember that not being an issue when that parent asked, at least. I'm not sure. I don't know if that's like an issue.
Okay.
But
because I get the point of the initial question, like, where do you hit? Do you try to just go straight to insurance and us advocate for Georgians in general, like why it should be more easily, access just to get that behavior, like therapy for behaviors and stuff? Or do you take it?
I think that almost like, if the way you just said it, if ABA serves an entire population, maybe that's how we can get around not suggesting that they need to see their pediatrician or something. Maybe we can just literally talk about the behavior, which is, I mean, kind of what ABA should be doing anyway. But it's interesting. And all of this goes back to, I feel like we shouldn't have to advocate this hard for their rights. Like you said, Hannah, that mom, like, she shouldn't have to jump through hoop after hoop in order to get what the child deserves, what they rightfully have.
right.
The right to have. So it's just,
Mm-hmm.
and I get culture, and again, like all these perceptions, and again, maybe we can bring that perception and that stigma down. We have a big mountain to conquer, ladies.
We do. We sure do.
And a lot, like, it's one step at a time, but
Mm-hmm.
definitely a movement. I feel like everybody is coming on, or like coming more comfortable with being honest and open.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, I feel like, especially now, like, I just feel like in general, there's way more like awareness of different diagnoses in general, like not just autism, but like Jackie said, like sensory processing disorder, PDA, ODD, I mean, ADHD, like those are things that I feel like are like exploding topics. And I feel like if ABA expanded its window, I feel like I do feel like ABA at the end of the day, like Jackie said, is about those applied behaviors, those
Mhm.
so important behaviors. And I see a much larger group than just autism that like needs that help, you know?
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely.
We do have some big mountains to climb, but I think we all have hiking boots, right? So we
Yeah.
should be
Definitely. Definitely the hiking boots and the stubbornness and the creativity to get to the top of the mountain at some point.
Exactly. Yeah. It's gonna be fine. We're gonna stand up and fight some politician one day.
I could
Yeah.
see that. I could totally see that.
Like, I'm curious. I don't know if I'll get in trouble for saying this, but I'm gonna say it anyway. Lawrenceville, how much did the picture cost on the wall that was painted? That bothers me so
upset about-
much. I'm like,
Fun. Like they're just painting all of the curbs.
I'm like, was it just donated? I'd like to know, as a person who lives in Lawrenceville, like, was the person that was paid to do it, if they were paid, of a specific served demographic? I just feel like our money could be used in a valuable way. But then again, what's value? Okay, we can't go down this rabbit
Yeah.
hole. But we have some exciting news coming up. We have our first trunk or treat. Tell us a little bit about it.
Okay, so it's on the 19th. It's at Hardis Swanee Senior Living. The exact location is evading me, but it will be in the notes below. It's going to be a good time. The theme is outer space, out of this world, which we believe these autistic individuals truly are, with the most respect. Just truly amazing people, and we just want to be out to represent and advocate and include. So we have, while that is our grand theme, we're going to have each individual trunk represent a different sensory system to just kind of shine a little bit of light about how there's actually 8. And okay, forgive me, not all of them will be showcased. You'll have to come out and check it out to see which ones are. We made sure that they're going to be so fun, and bring your kids, bring your wives, bring the whole town, bring everybody. It's going to be a great. There'll be candy, of course, because it is Halloween times. We're trying to get that taste sensory sensation as well. But yeah, it's going to be great. We're going to have a raffle. We're going to have games, prizes, crafts. So
And if you guys are not already following us on Facebook and Instagram, please do that. It's just Kindness Across Abilities on both. And if you'll go and look, I don't know when this will be posted, but today we went live about our raffle and our raffle options. So if you want to see the prizes and if you want to leave a comment to get a free sticker when you go this Saturday,
Yep.
Make sure to follow us and make sure to check out those videos.
yes. Thank you guys all so much for tuning in today.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Stay strong.